Going on, everybody? When you make your way in or find this stream, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any updates. Don't know how long I can do a stream today. Again, I'm in my office, which gets incredibly hot during the summer. I'm gonna have to move an air conditioner in here to keep this up, but for now, we'll keep it short, keep it sweet. I wanted to cover today basically my portfolio. Um, as I do think it's kind of one of the stronger mix of holds you could get for this particular bull run. So let's start from the top. I currently have about 70% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I would sell some Bitcoin at these levels for altcoins, but the issue with that being I've stacked my Bitcoin strategically to a specific level where I don't want to, I've hit a milestone and I don't want to go under that milestone because I don't know if I'll ever be able to hit it again. I already had this same thing happen in 2017 when I sold my bags for, emergency living type stuff. And I was never, till this day, I still only have like 20% of the Bitcoin I held in 2017, and I can't afford to get back what I had. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. Even though there is possible upside in alts that I could sell back to Bitcoin, there's also a chance I could lose some Bitcoin there, and I'm not willing to do that. So, for one, the most obvious, a forever hold for me, hold till I'm, probably 25, 30 years from now, I'd say, till I'm in my 60s. I would be expecting somewhere between 1 and 10 million of coin at that point. Probably minimal. But that's also trying to keep things semi-realistic. But let's jump into the altcoins, as I think this is kind of more so why people are here. So my biggest altcoin holding is Caspa. And Caspa, when we look at the chart, guys, I think a lot of us are aware of Caspa at this point. And how this thing had an absolutely insane run from its beginnings up to the 20-cent mark, and now back down to 7.5, 8 cents. And we have been consolidating in this area. Right now, what I'm looking at, we have this 1, 2 triple bottom scenario, at least a double bottom scenario. Either way, you're seeing 3 bottoms here, and by the time you see this second little bottom here, you're already starting to see some bullish divergence, and now you're seeing even greater bullish divergence in this next bottom. So as Caspa basically stays, sorry, you cannot see anything on this chart. Let me go to a different Caspa chart. Not MACD, anything but MACD, please. All right, sure. This is only part of the chart. This is terrible. I can't use it. Keep going. Okay. So everything's going to look a little different on each exchange, but basically what I'm looking at for Casper right now, you've got, it's not quite as clear on this one, especially on the longer time frames, but when we look on the daily here, you'll see from this bottom to this bottom here, we had a little bit of a lower low, just a slight lower low. On the chart here, we got some bullish divergence, and that bullish divergence played out. And now we're seeing the same thing going on here. So we're starting to see a little bit of a straight line versus starting to see that momentum pump upwards on Caspa. So we're starting to see some bullish divergence again. So this looks like a good solid double bottom, triple bottom scenario. And could eventually lead. I mean, my first. Let's take a look here. Let's pull some fibs, pull some important levels, and see what's going on. I mean, measuring for upside here, 30 cents and about 46 cents would be my targets for the cycle. And that is very bearish in my opinion. It just seems very bearish compared to what we were expecting from Caspa, but you got to remember Caspa's already done over 1,000x this cycle to get it up to that 20-cent point. So to get to 40 cents, 30 cents, you're expecting multiple 1,000% gains, which is a little hard to expect, I would say. But the value proposition in Caspa isn't this cycle. Caspa is not a finished project at this point, but even the most toxic Bitcoin maximalists are finally starting to warm up to Caspa. We saw some stuff on Twitter yesterday. Let's see if I can find it quick. Miami penthouse for Caspa. There we go. So, property details. Breathtaking ocean views from every room. It's 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, corner unit, furnished. Turnkey, 400 square feet, wraparound balcony. Beautiful. $4 million, $3.5 million penthouse in Miami, Florida. Miami Beach. Accepting crypto payments. Bitcoin. That's huge. And Caspa. Really? Really? And then you got all these people talking about, well, there's going to be ungodly amounts of these, you know. These are everywhere. You've all heard this one before. You know, Caspa or Bitcoin was the test net for Caspa. And we're seeing Caspa's only been around for a couple of years, guys. We're very, very, very early. And basically, when you break down the numbers, this would be like buying Bitcoin at around $100 or so. And you would be looking at, let's pull out market cap of. And this is going to be really hard to come to grips with something like this because it's such a far away, but this is a long-term play. Caspa is not a short-term get rich. This is a long-term cook. And either it's going to work or it's not. So Bitcoin to the all-time high. Bitcoin now, same shit. So we're basically looking at about an $80 Caspa, 1,000x from here to get to the Bitcoin market cap of today at $100,000. I think that is inevitable that this happens. I just don't know how long it takes. I think now that when you look at Caspa, you're kind of going to run into the same type of supply shock thing here a couple years down the road. You know, Caspa now is nearly fully diluted. Yep. Circulating supply 26.4, max supply 28.7. So we're 95% fully diluted. Pretty soon Caspa is going to start getting low as we still have huge wallets accumulating, and now we also have Caspa treasury companies popping up. And the idea of it. So let's see what I can find here. I've seen many things actually, but so Caspa. Da, 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 da. Your counter is not going to pop up for me. Anyways, there was somebody, I'm not sure who he was, speaking of the idea of doing a Caspa based treasury company. And I really like the idea of that, given. See, I'm just pissing me off. I can't find anything, and it's hard to complete my thoughts when I'm looking for this. But so I'm gonna stop looking for it. Basically, that could be on the prowl. That could be something we should be looking at. So, as a long-term cook, Caspa into the $10 range, $20 range, I think is probably a certainty next cycle. $5, $10. So it's up to you if you want to hold Caspa through a bear market. That's a really, really, really tough pill to swallow if we follow a 4-year cycle. Even though Caspa was the strongest performer of the bear market in this previous one, its first bear market ever, when it was pretty much introduced. Let me just check my sweet trade. Looks great. Okay. So this is one, if you're not in, I would either look to jump in this cycle, or I would be keeping a very, very close watch on for the bear cycle, for the bear part of the cycle, and to get in at your rock bottom prices for next cycle, as I believe next cycle is going to be the one for Caspa. So after that, we've got, so basically I'm working with a proof of work in Bitcoin, a proof of work in Caspa, both fair launch proof of works at that, and another now, fair launch Tau. I think this is going to be your AI play of your blue chip AI play of the cycle. Not your renders, not your ASIs, nothing like that. Obviously, you're going to get the AI agent narrative popping off, and you're going to find some big returns in some of those coins. Cookie DAO, Vader, stuff like that. Some of these Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, some of these BitTensor subnets, you'll find some huge, huge gains, but BitTensor has upside for days because, again, this is not a single coin. This is a coin. This is a whole ecosystem packed into one name of BitTensor. There's with all the subnets underneath it. It's kind of like a virtuals type thing. Where virtuals is not just virtuals. It's the whole ecosystem of virtuals you kind of inherit when you buy the virtuals token. It's the same thing with BitTensor Tau. So, given the subnets upside, there's 50 some, 60 some subnets, I believe, last time I looked, and it's been quite a minute. But the value proposition of those alone should be able to bring Tau relatively high. Tau also has the exact same market or the exact same tokenomics of Bitcoin. So inevitably you're going to be seeing the same types of supply crunches, stuff like that, and the fact this is fair launched, you don't have to worry about VCs dumping on your head. You don't have to worry about people who are holding 20% of the supply. It's not a thing. So BitTensor Tau, coming off of a nice double bottom right here. You got your first bottom, your second bottom, and there was no divergence on that. But let's scroll into the daily here, where we are starting to see some divergence. It looks like a lot of it already played out. So you had this huge area here from where we were going straight down, yet momentum continued to remain completely sideways throughout this whole period, right? We've got the small recovery bounce, and now the oscillators have totally reset themselves and are ready to run. Again, this is the daily, guys. So we have this bottom here, And if we go straight across from that bottom to the trend of where we are at now, you see that there's not really any divergence here playing out currently, but more so you're seeing, if anything, if any type of divergence, you're seeing it from the upside here, I would say, as this whole area is a very smooth descent versus on the RSI, you see a very, very, very fast cutoff here in total strength, and then it kind of just goes sideways, where this slowly kind of chopped, where it was more direct here, I think. So personally, I think this is lining up for a nice bottom, a head and shoulders pattern, cup and handle, whichever way you'd want to look at it, whether you see it as, a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder, or you see it as a cup and a handle. It doesn't matter. Regardless, you're looking at the same exact thing. Target wise, let's see. If it was a cup and handle, you're going to be having a little bit lower of a target because you're going to be measuring from the bottom of the handle, where if it was inverse head and shoulders, you'd be measuring from the neckline. So say this was an inverse head and shoulders, you would have a target of $800, which would be an all-time high, I believe. Yep. It would basically be double topping the all-time high. So that's a little scary, but there's confluence there, and I always like to see confluence. The other thing would be, if this was a cup and handle, you would take that same measurement from the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup, and you would pull it over to the bottom of the handle. And this gives us a target of $600. So again, let's pull that fib for upside. So we're going to run it the opposite way. So this basically, it's pretty close. It's not exact, but it basically puts us right here into this 786 area. 100% gains from where we are. Tau looks decent right now. It doesn't look exceptionally strong. The price action has not been exceptionally strong lately. But again, when it comes down to past bull markets, I'm not going to dig through it all right now, but what you'll see is 90% of the moves come within the last 10% of time. So all of this doesn't matter. This is all during QT. This is all while we cannot get rate cuts. As soon as rate cuts happen and we start to see quantitative easing, that's when you can judge which altcoins are not moving at the pace they should be. Right now, we're fighting some headwinds, with that kind of stuff. So macroeconomically. Next, I am holding SUI over Solana and Ethereum. Reason being market cap and SUI's TVL and value locked is gaining quickly. And I just think the upside is going to be a little higher than Solana and Ethereum, with about the same risk level though. Also, this is an amazing coin to trade. Clean technicals on this one. So not much to say with this one. You basically had your higher highs, higher lows, and then you basically flipped it to lower highs, lower lows, to lower high, lower lows, lower again, and then you have a change of character, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And now we're looking to put in another higher high here. Again, you're forming a little bit of a pattern here. If we go to the daily, again, you got that cup and handle type pattern forming. This one isn't quite as clean, but if you took it from here as your cup and your handle. Also, well, let's see what the target would be on that. If this did play out as a cup and handle, you'd be looking somewhere in the 3618 area on the small one, $4.20, approximately 75% gain or so. I had this area marked previously. I'm not sure why. I'm going to pull that over here. I'm going to get rid of that. So This people are concerned about this 1.27% unlock. It doesn't matter. It's 1% of supply. It's going to get eaten up. It does not matter at all. Do not be concerned about it. If you're concerned about it, get your GDAS hands out of the project and go somewhere else. Next. I don't want to flip to my page because then you'll see my portfolio. I don't want to do that. So I got Caspa, Bitcoin, Caspa, Sui, Bittensor, Aerodrome. So Aerodrome Finance, Ethereum play, base play. I am very high on Coinbase and what they're going to be able to do. I hate Coinbase as a service, as a exchange, but I love what they are doing for the ecosystem and what they are doing on their play off ETH. Aerodrome being the main DEX, I think is going to be, regardless of how the coins themselves do, the Toshis, the Bretts, the big memes of the base ecosystem, no matter how they do, Aerodrome should do well because there's going to be constant volume in Aerodrome. There's going to be constantly people looking at DeFi as a huge narrative this cycle. Aerodrome will be huge in that. I would rather be holding Aero over Athena, fucking Aave, stuff like that. Again, this is basically a market cap play. And just try and take advantage of a smaller amount. Wow, tough day for Aerodrome. Wow, I did not see that. When did that happen? It was just some whale bought. Nice whale buy here. Pumped it to 83 cents. Jesus Christ, I wish I would have had that on a leverage trade. Anyways, Aerodrome, very clear reason why I'm in this one. It's a smaller cap than most of the coins I hold, even though it is also in the top 100. I don't think you need to go much outside of the top 100 this cycle because there's like 10 million coins. The blue chips are going to get the attention, and you want to follow that money. So, Aerodrome Finance. So we got Bitcoin. We've got Caspa. We've got Bittensor Tau. We've got Sui. We've got Aerodrome. Next, we're going to be looking at Chainlink. Chainlink, very, very, very slow mover, but Chainlink is in the middle of everything crypto. This is a project I don't love holding because it doesn't do an awful lot. Look at the chart. It just doesn't do a lot. But inevitably, I think this is a play you're going to want to have long term. This is a long term hold as they are in the middle of everything, have been in the middle of everything, and will continue to remain in the middle of everything until something better comes out, and I do not see that happening anytime soon. The first mover advantage Chainlink has and what they've already accomplished for being able to bring, stocks online to crypto platforms via, their Oracle system. It's just there's too much happening for a Pith or anything like that to ever come close, in my opinion. So I hold a very, 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 very small percentage of this, but I do hold it. I don't hold this anymore. I recently sold it just because I personally didn't have enough money in it to make sense for me. But it was Ondo, just straightly due to the BlackRock connection and the other big names that they're partnered with. I think Ondo is destined to do well, probably $4 to $6 this cycle, realistically. A nice 5-6x, I would say. If you want to be a little more dangerous, you could go to the Relio, the prop space, the C pools. Kind of your call, but I feel like you're losing quality very, very quickly once you pass Ondo, Relio, and prop space. So yeah, that's where I stand on that one. And then, of course, you got to have a meme or two. And the only two memes that I'm going to entertain this cycle and have entertained this cycle are Fartcoin and SPX 6900. Fartcoin, I hopped in initially somewhere up in here sold a half up here, and then I held the rest. Now was in a major loss on it. Doing well now, as I dollar cost averaged all the way down. As most people, every time it dipped, we bought the dip, we bought the dip, we bought the dip, the dips dip, the dips dip, and now bags are packed. So I got my FARC coin, and then actually just 2 days ago, at about $1.20 something, I swapped 50% of my FARC coin with a 40 cent average, I think it was now, into SPX 6900. Both at exactly about a $1 billion market cap. I think a 10x would be very achievable for both of these, which would put SPX around $10 to $15, would put FARC coin around $8 to $10. And again, these are probably 3%, 4% of my portfolio each, outside of CASPA, which is, I think, about, like I said, I'm about 70% Bitcoin, but then you break down the altcoins. From what I remember seeing last, I'm about 33% CASPA. I'm about 20% Aerodrome. I'm about 15% Sui, about 14% BitTensor. And then from there, I have, I think, 5%, 7% in Chainlink, and then 5% in both FARC coin and SPX 6900, right about. So that's kind of where my levels of belief are in these. I would be holding less CASPA for this cycle, but I have such a good entry on it, and the price I got in was so solid that I already sold half the bag on the way down from 20 cents, somewhere in the middle, around 12 cents maybe. I sold half of what I was holding, so basically I'm moonbagged with like a 3.5, 4 cent entry average. I think maybe 4.4 cents, something like that. It was just prior to the ascending triangle that basically started the big moves for CASPA. So yeah, but because I don't know if I'm going to be able, depending on how high Bitcoin goes, how high these altcoins go, is going to depend. Do I hold CASPA through the bear market because A, it was a performer in the last bear market, and B, it's a long-term play? Or do I sell at the top or near the top, take a 25% hit on taxes, which means, say I sell at 50, we'll call it 50 cents, right? So I bought it, we'll call 5 for easy math. So I have 45 cents of gain on every CASPA. I lose 25% of that. So 45 cents, 25% of that is approximately 11.5 cents. So basically, say we hit the 50 cent mark, just to be break even after taxes, I need CASPA to fall at least from 50 to 38 cents. If I bought in at 38, it would be the exact same thing as me just holding and not paying the taxes. But if it goes under 38 cents, that's where I could be making free CASPA for next cycle, free money, whichever I prefer. Also, I plan to be shorting stuff. So, sorry about that, guys. So I do expect to be making money either way it goes on CASPA, but it's a really tough one. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. Do you sell your Bitcoin at the end of this cycle? Well, it really just kind of depends. Does it go to 150K, 170K, or does it go to 380K, 440K? Does it hit these crazy numbers? And if so, well then yeah, I probably want to sell 25%, 30% of my Bitcoin and try to buy back lower. If we only go to 160,000, I'm probably not going to sell any Bitcoin, because the lowest we're going to come back down to, if we're basing it off of any type of past, would be the previous cycle's top, which would be, in this case, $69,000. I think it's putting in a pretty solid floor at 100K, which we may never see under 100K again once we do get this final leg up. We may never come under 100 again, to be honest, but 69, 70K would be the floor I'm looking for. So we're only at 109 right now. So even if you're buying right now and you're still adding to your bag, worst case you go down 25, 30%. That's nothing in Bitcoin. That's nothing. It's just another fucking Tuesday afternoon in Bitcoin to have your bag being down 30% through the bear market. That's nothing. So that being said, guys, those are the coins that I'm holding. Those are the coins that I'm going to be riding into the bull and hoping they can set me a little more free than I came into this. So hope you enjoy getting a little bit of insight into the type of holder I am, the projects I am entertaining, and if there's something I'm missing, a big project I'm missing, please drop it in the chat. Like, I would love to know what you're holding that you have huge conviction in outside of what I'm already holding, and tell me why. And don't even need to tell me why. Just I'll find out why. I'll look and find out why. But by all means, show me what you're looking at. And by all means, please look into the plays I'm in, because I've done relatively well in crypto outside of the fact that I sold my Bitcoin in 2017 for life necessities, and I was never able to get it back because of my financial situation after. So far, it's not been perfect, but it's been a good 8 years in the market, I guess. So I've learned a lot for the next 8 years, and there's always going to be opportunities. The opportunity with Bitcoin, the big opportunities with Bitcoin, the big opportunity in Bitcoin is obviously sailed. That ship has sailed. But we have the Caspas, we have the Taos, we have these up-and-coming, the Ondos, these up-and-coming projects that are going to be big in the future, that you can still get in and still be early on. These prices are still ridiculous, guys, like bear market lows almost. Look at Ondo, look at Rio, look at Say. This is another one I didn't mention. Definitely on my watch list. Might sell some Sui for Say, as I think that Say has probably 10 to 15x upside in it. Easily expecting 250 out of Say. Let's just pull this quick just to see. I have not checked this personally. Look at that. Yeah, 285 is the top target. So yeah, I would say anywhere between $1.80 and $2.80 is a very fair assessment for a quick look at Say. So I think there's good upside in this one. This is another coin that's fun to trade. Just don't do it on too high a leverage because it's a fast mover. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to tend to my Sui trade, and I'm going to do some things. Again, I showed up basically with no agenda, as I'm really talking to nobody still at this point. So again, I'm the Real PG. My name is Pat. This channel started as a crypto channel in 2017, formed itself into a giant sports betting hub that was probably one of the most popular and the most successful sports betting channels on YouTube for a 2+ year period, until sports betting became no fun when it became a job. So I'm out, and we're back into crypto now, and we're gonna put this content out instead of sports, as I think there is more for your general average Joe, to learn from crypto content than there is from me saying, hey, take this guy, take Jesus Luzardo over 6Ks today, and not, there's just, there's nothing to be learned there, just shouting answers to somebody. I can't. That's the great thing about cryptos. Nobody has the answers. If we had the answers, we wouldn't be here. So we're forced to think, we're forced to learn, we're forced to adapt. And this is all reasons I love crypto. It's a never ending growth cycle with Bitcoin, with crypto. So keep your heads up, guys. All season is coming. I spoke about this last video also. I put in the dominance call, for the high on Bitcoin dominance on June 22nd at 66%. It was actually 66.06% where I called it. And then I called for 3 rate cuts between these 4 months, July, September, November, and December. July looks like it's out of the question. So I'm counting on now 2 of these 3, if not all 3. September, November, December, September, October, November, September, October, December, some combination of that. Q4 and Q3 is going to be lit for crypto, though. So with that being said, guys, I'm out of here. I will be back later. Hopefully, again, I've just been struggling to take the time to write out what I want to speak on, and because there's so many places to begin, and I am not quite sure where I wanted to start the journey from. So for right now, we're just touching base on some very overall type things. My portfolio, coins I like, my experience, what I have to teach you. Oh, speaking of this Bitcoin dominance chart, so we're still within the bigger falling wedge, the bigger ascending wedge here. Sorry, the bigger ascending wedge that we are about to fall out of. And then inside of that, we have a smaller falling wedge. And we just broke out of that smaller falling wedge. We fell down right here, broke out. And this is the area where I expected to catch some support and bounce out of if we were going to. We are at the exact bottom of that right now. It really should be pulled down to this moving average. So basically, if we get a fall out of there, that is my next signal that we are looking for this bottom trend line, and also we're going to start moving. Once we fall out of this and we get some type of, we fall from here, we get some kind of chop, we hit this, we chop around on it, we fall out, we're going to get a retest, and that once we get that retest rejection, that's when it's time. And we're close. We're real close now, guys. Even if you followed this, I have a worst case scenario posted up on here. Worst case Bitcoin dominance top about 69.5%. I don't even think it's going to get that high. It's probably closer to like 68.5%, 68.75 is like a worst case. And then I'm looking for about 55 to 45% on the downside. I had a fucking sell it all note way lower that I removed. I believe I did. So I initially was looking for like 38% as the Bitcoin dominance bottom, but I don't think we're going to go that low, simply because so many people are in the ETFs, so many people don't have the ability, just won't, because the bigger players, they won't roll over into altcoins. They're going to either stay in the ETF or some kind of micro strategy or some type of vehicle like that where they're not going to sell and jump into alts. So I expect less of a drop this year. I think a very solid spot to assume as your first target would be 55% here, and then all the way down to as low as about, I would say, 46 to 45%, probably closer to 47, 48. So for Bitcoin down, but that alone, that is going to send alts like nothing else if we can get into these levels again. So I don't know how that measured move just got turned sideways like that, but again, I'm looking for 55% where we have this support resistance region. If you look back, you see all the touches we've had in this area. And then if we get to there and we can continue down, the next area I would be looking into would be right here. So this is where I'd be looking to take some partial profits on alts, and this is where I'd be looking to take some more profit on alts. And from there, if we continue down, obviously, like I said, I don't think we get here, but if we get into this area here, that's where you sell all your alts if we get that far down, because your alts have made some serious gains against Bitcoin. And if your goal is, like mine is, to stack sats, not stack cash, you want to take advantage of your alt to Bitcoin pair while it's at its highest and get it into Bitcoin while you can. So that being said, guys, lots going on right now. Bitcoin is on the move, northbound, soon to be on an unstoppable train. Once we can break the all-time high, which I don't expect today, I don't expect tomorrow, I do expect by sometime second half of July into the end of August, I expect all-time highs to be broken and some astounding new highs to be found. So till later today or tomorrow, guys. Best of luck with your trading. If you are an active trader, now is a great time in the market to be trading, as there are a lot of websites with some pretty great deals right now for free money, as well as the volatility being high. So until tomorrow, guys, best of luck. Stay bullish.